Hello guys, this is Do-It-Yourself Harley again, and I just found a pretty good image that I wanted to show y'all when assembling the gear case back together. Now one thing's going to help you identify if you've got it timed correctly, of course, is this right here. This is the pinion shaft that comes out of the of course, out the side of the motor there. And of course this is your oil pump, so you'll recognize all this. Now for like my particular motor, of course it doesn't have the little hole in the side of the oil pump or anything like that. It's a different, I guess a different version or something of that nature of the Harley Sportster motor. So here you got your oil gear, and then of course there's another gear that of course slides on here and things like that. Now this key is very important. This is the key here. Let's say you think your timing's way off, somebody really messed up, blah blah blah. Okay, this right here is what's gonna solve a lot of your problems. And I forgot to mention this when I was putting it back together, but now I'm going to get back to it. Come back to it, of course, here in this video. But this key right here lets you know that that is where your other gear that you slide on after, that if you slid that on or off, or maybe you was changing the gearing out, something, whatever it may be, doesn't really matter to me. But that keyhole basically is where you want at 11 o'clock, the 11 o'clock position, which would be right here. That'll be facing that direction. And then of course you slide your little gear on, which, let's see if I can find a decent picture of it. Oh, what the, keep the country, what the hell, why that, okay. Then of course, since I got a nearby picture, that little mark on that gear, so this is a separate different type of gearing, so different type of oil pump and assembly, but it's basically the same. But that little groove that's on that other gear that will slide onto here, okay, that groove has to be lined up with that groove on the pinion shaft. Okay, that makes it so it's perfectly in time. It'll save you a lot of headache from trying to figure it out. Now you can put this 180 degrees out and it not actually have a problem. It will still run. Mine was that way in the beginning, and I planned on making a video on how to correctly fix that and all that good stuff, but I ended up getting into a rush between work and stuff like that and putting it back together. Never did get around a chance to making a video on it. But just a little note, like I said, this little groove here that's in the little gear itself, let's say you took that off or took all your gears out, the groove in that little gear, let's see if I can find a better picture. Okay, here's a perfect example. The groove in this gear, now just pay attention to this groove. Don't worry about this, because this is a different type of model of pinion shaft, and this one only has one way to go on correctly. But that little slice, basically, that's in this little gear has to be lined up with this, and that is for my motor, or depending on if it's your motor. Mine's a 77 and this is the way mine is. I don't know if the motor was changed. I don't believe it was, because the serial numbers match according to the frame and everything also. So, but make sure it lines up with that. Now of course, if you have this type of gear, there's this big lobe here, or this big lobe, I'll call it a lobe, this big lobe, and then a small one, small lobe, and then there's also one on the bottom side, that's a small one also. This is the only way this one will go on. It's practically dummy proof, unlike the other one where you can actually mess it up. But this one, or this groove, will actually line up with the big lobe, and it'll slide right on there, blah blah blah. Then you got to have your oil hole at the correct position, and then all that good stuff. So with that, guys, that's pretty much it. I just wanted to make sure that you guys understood about that. And of course, there's some other pictures here that show you basically the groove at 11 o'clock. And there's always good pictures on the internet to be able to verify your stuff. And of course, this picture's a little foggy. Can't see none of that picture. Okay, so here's another one. And this is the other type that I'm talking about. So if you have this big, huge square oil pump, you'll pretty much know what motor you have. But it'll have a big gear. It'll have the big lobe here. It's positioned at the 11 o'clock, of course. And then, of course, it's got a groove, 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 to groove, to groove, to groove. This gear you don't have to worry about, and groove, groove. And like I said, just make sure that you have that groove that's on the little pinion shaft, which is this, lined up at the 11 o'clock also with the groove on the little gear. If those are lined up, you're good and set and ready to go. With that, guys, I'm just going to go ahead and end the video, and I figured just using little references from the internet would probably be a better deal than actually trying to show you on the bike, because considering I've already put it back together, it's something that I failed to mention when I was doing it, but hey, we all forget things. So hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys later.